Order, please join me by rising and saying the pledge to the flag. If you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, due to the virtual meeting, there'll be no live participation. Please feel free to email any thoughts, comments to the superintendent at charlene.dean@redjacket.org. The board will receive all thoughts and comments that are submitted. And we will start with our school budget update with Tim.
Okay, the third budget update for the 2021 school budget. Budget calendar on Friday, the building, special education, and the athletics budgets will be submitted to me based on their allocations they were given. On March 22nd, petitions available for the 3 Board of Education candidates, which we'll talk about more in a later slide. April 1st is our publication of the first legal notice. The April board meeting, April 14th, is when we adopt the budget. And April 19th, by 5 p.m., petitions to run for the board are due to Kim Brown. Oh, hold on, I got to admit somebody. April 26th, property tax report card. April 28th, the budget technically has to be completed. So many days before May 5th for the budget hearing, which is also a Board of Education meeting. The 10th deadline for mailing the budget notices. May 11th, all the copies are available. And Tuesday, May 18th is the vote for the budget and the members of the Board of Education. February, we talked about the governor's proposal. We're hoping that the legislators will have their budget on time, which is usually right around the end of this month, March 30th. So not much has changed in the governor's, but I still included those slides in the presentation. Tax cap, what we saw in February is what the tax cap ended up being. The minor changes all came out to what the same. So our tax cap is 1.94% for the 21-22 school year. And even though it's under the 2%, we don't anticipate going out anywhere near the tax cap at this time. Staffing. We're proposing an additional special education teacher. Restoration of the elementary librarian. We'll still share that with Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES and just hire that service from them. Restoration to make it a full-time business teacher from 0.5 back up to 1.0 FTE. Restoration of 0.5 psychologist from Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES. Although we didn't have that position this school year, the 2021 school year, in previous years, especially 1920, I think 1819, we tried to get the position and didn't have any candidates. So just because we're restoring the position doesn't mean that Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES will have the position available. It all depends on the applications they receive. Addition of office specialists over at the transportation department, and that is going to be as soon as possible position. We've requested a canvas for that position. We'll actually have to approve tonight for adding another position. We're at our max for the number of office specialists, and it's a 1 office specialist 1. I don't have the 1 there. So we'll approve that tonight, and then we'll canvas and Unfortunately for Canvas, it'll take us 4 weeks before we receive the list. And then we'll go through the interviews, and depending on if the candidate is currently employed, we could be looking a little bit further before that person actually starts in the district as well. And restoration of maintenance mechanic. We're hoping to fill that as soon as possible, just because especially with athletics being 7 days a week right now, it'd be good to be able to have that person available on Sundays. Expenditures at this time for general support, up about $131,985. I apologize, the percentages are behind the screens right now, but I think that was about a 0.6. Instruction increase, 285,000, which I know was around 2.3% increase. Pupil transportation up just a little bit. We're anticipating, hopefully, we've received a lot of applications recently for the bus driver position, and we're hoping that in the 21-22 school year, we can have all of our runs covered by in-district employees, and that we won't have to use outside services anymore. That would be great for the district. And debt service and benefits up 115,000, which is also just up a little bit above 2%. For it, anticipated total expenditure increase right now of a little bit over $500,000 or 2.85%. Oh, there, I can hide the thumbnails. Okay, at this time, pilots and interest, we'll be a little anticipating about a little bit over $1,000 in revenue, which is a little bit over 4%. BOCES rent and transportation, $24,000 increase. This year, obviously, without no field trips or other things where BOCES has rented transportation for us this year, our revenue on that was down a little bit. So we're anticipating that will increase again next year. Miscellaneous revenue, 5% increase. Medicaid, it looks like a big jump, but we've been steadily increasing claims, and getting the actual revenue for the last 2 or 3 years has been creeping up closer to $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. So we want to make sure we budget the revenue appropriately. Debt service, using the interest that we receive from prior capital projects, the appropriate to the budget in accordance with our reserve plan, staying at 75,000. Appropriated fund balance, using leftover money that's not spent for this 2021 school year to support the budget next year. Previously, before the pandemic, we were looking to get the appropriated fund balance back down to 0, but as part of our reserve plan last year, we increased $300,000 just to help with the potential state aid cuts at the time. And we'll continue with that with our plan as we anticipate, especially with the stimulus package officially passing today, with it being on President Biden's desk on Friday to sign, that we might receive a little bit more in funding. And that'll help us for the 2021-22 school year. And then, similar to we talked about in February, the gap elimination adjustment, that in years following that, we might have to look for ways to make up for that funding. And we'll continue to use our reserves, $100,000 for the 21-22 school year, which leaves us with just around a $45,000 budget gap, which so we're looking at a 0.57% tax increase at this time. Increasing revenues are a total of 3.53. Proposition 2, bus purchases as part of our 5-year replacement cycle. 2 large 55 passenger buses, $273,250. 130 small passenger bus and 130 small passenger bus with a wheelchair lift. Red Jacket transportation aid is around 90%. These are existing funds in the capital bus reserve, so no budget or tax impact for these purchases. Proposition 4, the Board of Education vote. We have 2 expiring seats, Barb Gardner and Jennifer Spears. 5-year terms run from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2026. We have the 1 open seat that the board, we kept with 6 members. But once we have the board or the budget vote on May 18th, the person who receives the 3rd, assuming it's a new person, if whoever gets the 3rd most votes will actually become a board member for that June meeting. So they technically by law take over the day after the budget vote. So that's why their term is May 19th, 2021 through, and that is a 4-year term because that term was already served for 1 year this year. So that one ends on June 30th, 2025. As we talked about in the budget calendar, those petitions are due to Kim Brown by April 19th at 5 p.m. And those petitions are available in the district office or the business office. We hope to, as I said, with the legislators' budget hopefully being on time at the end of the month. By the April board meeting, we will have a more concrete or somewhat concrete on our aid, where our state aid will be for the year, as well as any additional federal funding. And that presentation will go more into details in April. Any questions from the board?
Is there any projections, Tim, that they're talking about from funding from the government?
There has been projections on the smaller stimulus package. Now with the larger stimulus package, I'm sure we'll get more somewhat concrete numbers when this all is signed into law on Friday and all the 1,000-page documents come out. And I think all this funding too is not going to have to specifically be spent, kind of like this year, the CARES Act. That money was given for this year, but it has to be spent by September. It's not September 30th. It's like September 25th of 2022. And they're thinking that the stimulus package will be much the same, where we'll have a little flexibility to be able to use it over a 2-year period. And I don't know if I mentioned it in February's presentation, but the other nice part is it's going to be our money. We're not going to have to give it to the private schools that we are already paying tuition to. So that is one positive addition to this package. And as we all know in the news, with the legislation budget coming out, usually 3 people, the 3 highest ranking officials, get in the room and come up with the final budget. It'll be interesting to see what the governor's role in with the other 2 will be in this year when the 3 meet to come out with the final budget.
Okay, thanks.
Tim,
That
I
was
have
my follow-up question was, is there going to be contingencies on how it has to be used? So thank you.
I'm sure there will. I'm sure it'll be a lot of the same ones.
Tim, I had a couple questions.
Yep. I'm gonna
Well,
stop sharing
my
my
first one is, if we're thinking about adding positions, does that mean we don't anticipate any position cuts?
Yes, we don't We don't anticipate any position cuts.
Okay, and then my other question is, well, one of my other questions, if BOCES doesn't have a psych, like they haven't in the past couple of years, what then will we do? Is there, like, could we restore, one of the positions that went to a part-time, or what's the plan if they don't fill that?
I mean, they are really close to us, so it is the same candidate pool. So to say that BOCES doesn't have applications means that there might not be applications for us as well.
Right.
But we'll check that avenue, and in a lot of school districts, you probably have seen have posted interns and stuff, but you need a specific certification to be able to supervise the intern as well. So
Mhm.
we continue to check every avenue as we can, just like Christy can tell you, the finding a speech therapist this school year right now has been nearly impossible. So we've reached out to an outside agency to help us out a little bit.
Mhm. And then do we know at the,
Amanda, can I just add one more
oh,
thing?
sure, yeah, of course.
When we do need, so the 0.5 is needed. But when we've been in this position, what we've done is reached out to another school psychologist that works at Red Jacket Education Center and paid her to come and do some of the work that we've needed, even though that position wasn't filled. So we do reach out and do get help from Red Jacket Education Center to help support our current school psych when there's a need.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is, do we know, like, back in the spring, they had anticipated the 20% cut. Do we know at this point for this school year what the actual cut was versus what they anticipated?
Yep, they have fully restored the 2021 aids. So, and they, after our last meeting in the interim, they also restored the aids from 1920 that were paid at the end of the year that had that 20% reduction. And now, if we were to post the actual run, they're just playing the shell game of moving it around. And I think we talked about in February, they're trying to include STAR, the amount we receive in STAR as a state aid to show that they did not cut us our aid as well. Even though it was fully restored though, our biggest aid, foundation aid, was still flat. It was what it was 2 years ago. So they restored back to a slight increase in all the transportation aid back to what we actually used to receive it, but foundation aid is still what it was 2 years ago.
Okay.
And they're
Thank you.
anticipating foundation aid will stay flat for this budget as well, for the 21-22 budget.
Did anyone have anything else for Tim? No? Thank you, Tim, and I see you answered the question in the chat too, so thank you for that as well. Okay, so we'll move on to Appendix A, which is the school calendar for the 2021-2022 school year. I actually have a question. I don't know if anybody else will open it up to questions, but I just wanted to ask about December. I see on the calendar itself, the 24th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st are marked as break. But at the bottom, it says the 23rd through the 23rd through the 31st is holiday recess. So is the 23rd part of recess or not?
You caught an error that we didn't catch, so thank you for that. The 23rd is students would be in session.
Okay. Did anyone have any other questions on it before we?
I have the same thing circled, so.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so the board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the 2021-2022 school calendar as presented.
Amanda, motion.
With the
Lisa,
correct- All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, so we are on to Appendix B, which is, Yeah.
I don't know if you want to do it here. I didn't send anything out because when I was home, I didn't have it. You have to approve another office specialist one position. It's just an addition. So I don't know if you want to do it here or in financials. It's for the transportation department and we have to add a position. It's just a civil service position.
I mean, we
Or
can
I
do it.
can send it to for the exec or the work session.
Work session, let's do that.
Tim, is that okay? Or
Yeah,
okay. Sorry about that. It's been crazy.
That's okay.
Okay.
Let's do that then.
Okay.
All right, so Appendix B is the minutes of our February 9th, 2021 capital project vote. Did anybody have any questions on that?
I move this be accepted.
Amanda, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We have Appendix C, the minutes of our February 10th, 2021 regular meeting. Anyone have anything on those? Is there a motion?
Be accepted as presented.
Amanda, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. On to the personnel report, Appendix D. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to grant Amy Baker tenure in the literacy area. The tenured service shall begin on October 21st, 2021. The appointee is professionally certified in literacy 5 through 12.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to grant Heather Grasso tenure to the counseling area. The tenured service shall begin on July 15th, 2021. The appointee is permanently certified in school counseling K through 12.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to grant Andrea Gregg tenure to the load department. The tenured service shall begin on March 15th, 2022. The appointee is initially certified in Spanish 7 through 12.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to grant Emily Leibowitz tenure to the elementary education area. The tenured service shall begin on September 8th, 2021. The appointee is professionally certified in childhood education and SWDB 6.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to grant Melissa Smith tenure to the elementary education area. The tenured service shall begin on September 8th, 2021. The appointee is professionally certified in the childhood education and SWD 1 to 6, and initially certified in childhood education and SWD B2 and literacy B12.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to grant Marissa Bachman tenure to the speech area. The tenured service shall begin on September 8th, 2021. The appointee is professionally certified in speech and language disabilities.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to grant administrative tenure to Mark Bracy, District Administrator, effective August 21st, 2021.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Great.
Carried. Hi, Charlene, and congratulations.
Congratulations, Mark.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
to all
Mark.
everybody. Great.
That flew by, Mark. I don't know about for you, but the board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to appoint Joshua Henninger, head varsity football coach for the 2020-2021 school year, September 6th, per the RJFA negotiated contract agreement.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, the recommendation of the superintendent to appoint Nicholas Locke, assistant varsity football coach for the 2020-2021 school year, salary $4,747.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to appoint Joseph DeVay, assistant varsity football coach for the 2020-2021 school year.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to appoint Tamara Housel, Fall 2 varsity cheerleading coach for the 2020-2021 school year, salary $2,745.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to appoint Jennifer Johnson, Fall 2 modified cheerleading coach for the 2020-2021 school year, salary $2,329.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to make appointments as per the consensus agenda.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Congratulations to all of our new tenured employees. It's exciting. We'll have virtual cake.
Cake. Funny.
Next month. Love cake. All right, so we are on to our CSE, CPSE report, Appendix E. Does anyone have any questions for Christy?
Nope.
I move these be accepted as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right, we're on to Appendix F, our reports and correspondence.
Thank you. I'd like to congratulate Emily Leibowitz, Missy Smith, Marissa Bachman, Andrea Gregg, Amy Baker, Heather Grasso, and Mark Bracy. These exceptional Red Jacket professionals have worked very hard, dedicating themselves to serve and meet the needs of our students. And it's my honor to recommend them to the Board of Education for tenure and continue to work alongside such talented, dedicated, and caring people. Thank you. I wanted to share with the board some thoughts regarding in-person learning and have a little bit of a dialogue there. So feel free to ask questions. We've had some questions about why we have not moved from the hybrid model of learning to fully in-person 5 days per week. I believe that we had all hoped that we would be moving in that direction and things would be safe by now. At this time, however, we are required to follow the requirements set out through the executive order which includes 6 feet of distancing in schools and masks. Until the distancing requirement is changed to a distance that will allow us to safely have all of our students in school, we will continue doing the best we possibly can using the hybrid model of instruction. The 6-foot distancing requirement does not allow us to have 100% of our students in school or on our buses. We do not have empty spaces to move students to, nor do we have extra staff to supervise extra rooms, even if we had them. If the 6-foot distancing requirement is changed by Governor Cuomo or the New York State Department of Health, we will be ready to move to in-person learning. This will include making some adjustments to how we manage lunches, and we will need some time to get our furniture out of storage and into classrooms and other spaces. When we worked on our reopening plan during the summer, we had the foresight to create schedules for our students and staff that would allow us to move into full in-person instruction with relative ease. We have worked really hard to ensure the safety of our students and our staff through our partnership with Ontario County, thanks to County Administrator Krista Bolt and Deputy County Administrator Brian Young, who set aside vaccines for Red Jacket and other area schools. All of our staff who chose to get vaccinated were able to do so. At this time, approximately 80% of our school staff have received a vaccine. Additionally, I think we've done a very good job at Red Jacket following all of our safety protocols. And we've been able to respond proactively by moving individuals to online learning if there was a chance that they had contact with other symptomatic individuals. Through contact tracing, it is evident that the spread of COVID has not been connected to spread in our school, but from general community spread. However, this does not mean that we won't or can't fall prey to spread in school, but so far we're managing very well. With the increased number of people being vaccinated, following the mask requirement and keeping our cleaning and disinfecting protocols in place, I believe Red Jacket could safely move to full in-person learning when the governor and New York State Department of Health deem it safe to change the distancing requirements. We are currently surveying parents, guardians, and our staff to determine how many families support moving to full in-person learning if the distancing requirement is changed, as well as to gauge how safe our staff feel and determine what additional safety measures we could put into place. Although I'm still gathering survey results, so far 86% of our parents and 66% of our staff would prefer in-person learning 5 days per week if the distancing requirement is changed to allow us to do this. So far, 8% of our parents and 33% of our staff prefer to remain in the hybrid model, and 6% of parents prefer online learning. As I've said before, when it comes time, I recognize not everyone will agree with moving back to full in-person learning, and there's going to be pressure from all sides on the issue no matter what we do. However, I think that most of us would agree that even though our teachers and staff are amazing and working extremely hard to provide the best education we can for our students, and our parents are trying their very best to rise to the challenge of teaching from home, working and managing their households, the vast majority of our students are not getting the same level of education they need and deserve with the hybrid model of instruction as they would if we were fully in person. I know this situation has been very difficult for everyone. However, I am hopeful with increased vaccinations, low infection rates, and that the New York State Department of Health and the governor will deem it safe enough to be able to change the distancing requirement to a level that will allow us to have our students back in school in person 5 days per week. At this point, however, that executive order has not changed. Jen, I know you had a question that you were going to ask regarding what the consequences
for you now, but yeah, so I've been asking you before. So let's just say, what if a school said, you know what, we're open and we're going 5 days. Everybody wants to be in, staff wants to go back, kids want to go back, everybody, let's do it. What would be the consequence? What would happen?
So compliance with the New York State Department of Health was required in the original executive order, which mandated 6 feet of distancing, and the penalty of losing our state aid was specifically referenced. That executive order has not changed.
Okay.
You know, our school relies heavily on state aid. Not only can the New York State withhold our school's state aid, but the Ontario County Department of Health can also fine our school up to $2,000 for not complying with the order. Are there any other questions regarding in-person learning that folks have?
I know you said, so if they do reduce the distancing, how soon do you think we would be ready? I know that's a question on a lot of people's mind. You know, if the governor said, is it 3 feet and masks? I think masks are still going to be required, but they reduce, do we have that timeline and what that might look like?
It will take a lot of effort to get to get our furniture out of storage. So I would hope that we would at least have a week in order to do that. That's a minimum amount of time. But I think it could be done. The issue that we are grappling with is the lunch piece, because 3 feet of distance, even in the cafeteria, then creates some problems, particularly at the high school level, but really at all levels, to be able to fit everyone in to the cafeteria. So we would have to utilize classrooms, which poses problems with the number of staff that we have in order to supervise students if they're spread into other rooms during those periods of time. But we've been working on that behind the scenes. So we're going to continue to come up with better solutions for those problems. So
I had a question on you mentioned 80% of the staff is vaccinated now, which is awesome. Is that everyone that wanted to be vaccinated, or is there anybody still waiting?
That's everyone who wanted to be vaccinated. There are some folks that are waiting for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that they have shared, and there's other folks that just don't want the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. And then the survey that you mentioned, I know the parent survey is open till Friday, right? The 12th, Friday. So the staff, is that survey still open, or when does that close? Same
Friday
day?
as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'll provide an update when I get the final results.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so just to be clear, it is state mandated, 6 feet is still the rule, and masks, not a either or, it is both.
It is an executive order, and I know that some other schools may be able to manage the distancing requirement, and maybe they have, maybe they're doing half day morning and half day in the afternoon, so they see all of their kids all day long. We did consider those options way back in the summer when we were working on our reopening plan. However, it's not really much of an option for us at Red Jacket, because our students are required to not only have 180 days of instructional days, but they're also required at the elementary level to have 900 minutes of instruction. So that excludes cafeteria, the lunchtime, and it excludes passing time in the hall. And the high school is required to have 990, I'm sorry, I said minutes, I meant hours per year of instruction, which it also excludes lunchtime and hallway passing time. So when we have to report out our hours of instruction to the state, I don't know how other school districts are going to manage the fact that they're not going to get the state aid coming to them that they would normally. Additionally, some folks are using other staff members. So maybe they're pulling special ed out of consultant teacher classrooms. So the special ed teachers now have a group of students. Maybe they're pulling some of the special area teachers, like maybe art or PE. And those folks might be providing instruction. And on the surface, that might sound okay. However, those folks are not certified to teach out of their areas. So once again, when you report that to the state, it's not legal to have teachers teaching out of their certification area, and it's not legal to not provide students with their services on their IEPs or 504 plans. So that's a concern too. And that opens us up to a lot of liability because we're required to provide all students with a free and appropriate public education. And we're required to follow the mandates in Part 200 regs for all students and ADA for 504 students. So there was a lot of thought going into our reopening planning. And there's a lot of thought on if we were to make a change at this point, how could we do it and be in compliance with the law, but also truly meet the needs of all of our students. I think our teachers and staff are doing an outstanding job. I'm really proud of the work that they're doing. I can't say that enough. And I think all of us really want to get to normal, 5 days in person, regular schedules. But I'm not willing to risk our school's state aid, which is over $5 million, to have that withheld or to, place our staff in an unsafe situation and students in an unsafe situation. So I hope that people can continue with their, being patient and understanding, and hopefully things will change so that it is safe and we can have kids come back 5 days a week.
Melanie, I have a couple questions. That the hours that you were talking about, do their virtual days count as a full day, like hours wise?
Their online hours count, yes.
Okay. And also, have we kind of played through any creative solutions for some of the biggest obstacles like transportation? Have we thought about like surveying parents about, I know the classroom, the distance is the biggest barrier right now, but if that were to be reduced and then transportation or lunch became a bigger barrier, have we played through kind of those creative solutions as to surveying people about who can drive their kids or, eating outside or whatever as things change?
Yeah, we have talked about, being outdoors when we can, but, we still have to have a contingency plan should the weather not cooperate. But I have not surveyed parents as to whether or not they would be willing to drive their children. We certainly could do that when we get closer to that point in time. Right. However, we are still required to provide transportation, so it could be tricky. I'm hoping though that if they reduce the distancing, that it would include transportation,
Sure.
There's a lot more parents though that work from home now that didn't before that might want to transport their kids.
Yeah.
So
right.
so it'd be worth.
Yeah. Right.
Do we also know exactly what it would have to be reduced to be able to come back? Like what if they said 4 feet, or does it have to be?
It really,
3?
We've been kind of calculating that, and we really need it to be 3 or less.
Okay.
Just because of the square footage.
Sure.
Are there any other questions?
3 feet, the bus 3 feet would work too, right? 3 feet or less for the bus?
We think so because when we were calculating previously, the guidance was that families could sit together. So that helps a lot. So I'm hopeful. The other thing I just wanted to share before I finish with my report is that I would like to point out, I'm going to move back to the budget piece. Tim, thank you for your presentation. You did a really nice job. I would like to point out that throughout the budget development process, our goal is always to remain fiscally responsible while also meeting the needs of our students. And looking back over the past 10 years, we've had 3 budgets, 3 years where we've had a 0% tax levy increase. Every single year we have been under the New York State tax cap. And, Tim shared, depending on the state aid piece, that we're anticipating asking voters to vote on a 0.57 levy increase. So once again, this is well under the tax cap. Also, I just wanted to share that unless we are directed otherwise, we are planning on in-person voting in May. We have not received any direction on this, however, from Governor Cuomo. The mail-in ballots, although they were convenient for many of our community members, and certainly, the absentee ballots would still continue, it was very expensive for our district. So that is a factor that we are concerned about, and we would like to have in-person voting if at all possible. But that will certainly depend on whether or not there's any orders from the governor. So.
But if
All right.
not, people wanted to do that mail-in, do they just reach out to Kim? Or will we
Yes.
put actions out there, just kind of
Yeah.
reminding people?
Yeah, that's what we do, always do every year, yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Charlene. Okay, so we're moving on to our financial reports, Appendix G, the financial report. Did anybody have any questions on that? No? Hearing none, I'll accept on behalf of the board. Appendix H is our treasurer's report. Anyone have any questions on that? Have to find all your squares. Okay, I see a lot of this, so
No,
I'll accept on behalf of the board as well. So we're on to Appendix I, the gifts of real property. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to accept the gift of an air purifier from Steve Huber and R.L. Kistler with an estimated value of $999.
Motion.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to accept the gift of a Prince ping pong table from Mr. and Mrs. Liberty with an estimated value of $350.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Nice gifts. So we are on to Appendix J, which is our external audit resolution. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to appoint Mango Metzger Bar & Co. LLP for external audit services for the 5 years ending 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025. District scoring of the request for proposal WFL RFP 2021-24 independent audit services was justification for this recommendation.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We are on to Appendix K, the capital outlay seeker. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the seeker resolution as stated below. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. So now we are on to L, which is our old business. Bringing back our response to intervention policy. Oh my goodness, policy.
I had a couple questions on this. And I don't know if I should direct them to Jeff or Charlene, so feel free to chime in, either one. What does our RTI look like right now at the elementary? Like, I know we had done RTI for all blocks where we were providing interventions and enrichment. Like, what do those periods look like now?
So it looks a little bit different this year. The feedback from the teachers at the start of the year, Amanda, was that with the kids only in the building 2 days a week, they really didn't want to see the kids being pulled for intervention just because they were going to miss then primary instruction, and there's so little of it. It goes along with, we also have kids that have a lot of related services. So one of the ways we tried to handle that is the RTI providers, our 2 literacy people, are actually doing it virtually on the kids' days at home. We also are bringing some kids in on their off days to give them RTI services. Depends on what the intervention is. So a few of the kids come in, we get bussed in, and then other kids are just doing it virtually. And we have some related services taking place that way too that are separate from RTI.
Sounds good. And then I was really pleased to see in your report, Jeff, that I would completely understand if the reading instruction piece that you guys talked about last year was pushed off, because obviously there's a lot going on, but I was thrilled to see that you guys are researching that, because I feel like it's going to be more needed than ever when it comes to kids coming back and being back full time and making up for any gaps that they have. So what is the tier 2, like the research-based instruction that they're using?
It'll depend on the students. We have a couple of different programs that are our primary ones. LLI is one of the ones that they use a lot. We also have some kids receiving Wilson. So some of our literacy providers have been Wilson trained, which is another reading program as well. Those would be the 2 main research-based programs that we use at the elementary level.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
I think that was all I had on it.
Thank you, Jeff, for all your hard work on updating the RTI policy.
Thanks.
Much appreciated.
Does anyone have anything else on this one? My box has moved around. I gotta find everybody again.
No.
No, that was it.
Okay. So then the board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to waive the second reading and complete the adoption of policy 7212.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. So, is there a motion to move into executive session to discuss the rental agreement?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody have a
Congratulations.
great night.